Beware, you're in for a scare.
My top 10 favourite Goosebumps books with honourable mentions. Number 10, The Werewolf of Fever Swab. It started with the strange howling at night, then there was the dead rabbit. Everyone thinks Grady's new dog is responsible. After all, he looks just like a wolf and he seems a little on the wild side. Grady knows his dog is just a regular old dog, but dogs don't howl at the moon and disappear at midnight, or do they? In a little kid's opinion, this would be seen as one of the more scarier Goosebumps books, if there's a strange creature out there killing animals. I do prefer the TV episode, but this is quite a good read. Just make sure you beware the wolf, and whoever could be one. Number 9, The Legend of the Lost Legend. Nobody loves a good story like Justin's dad. He's a famous writer and story collector. That's how Justin and his sister Marissa ended up in Bosphania. Their dad is searching for an ancient manuscript called The Lost Legend. Justin and Maria want to help, but instead of finding the lost legend, they get lost. And the woods of Bosphania are filled with the strangest creatures, like hundreds of squealing mice, silver-coloured dogs, and terrifying Vikings from long ago. It's a nice strange Goosebumps story with a lot of strange hallucinations all over the place, and there's a reason why the Lost Legend is called the Lost Legend. When it comes to fantasy stories, it's not as good as Beasts from the East, but it's still quite a good mysterious read. Just make sure to stay out of the sight of anything strange. Well, sometimes. Number 8, Monster Blood. While staying with his weird great aunt Catherine, Evan visits a funky old toy store and buys a dusty can of Monster Blood. It's fun to play with at first, and Evan's dog Trigger likes it so much he eats some. But then Evan noticed something weird about the green slimy stuff. It seemed to be growing and growing and growing, and all that's growing has given the Monster Blood a monstrous appetite. This one in the series is obviously popular since it's got many adaptations, and it's a good story, and I felt like the bullies got what they deserved in the end. Like every book, I do prefer the episode, but this was quite a good story and shows that every family got the weird one. Just make sure that next time you beware when playing with slime. And quick mention before moving on to the next book, I also quite like the cover, quite creepy like. Number 7, Welcome to Cap Sliver. Bourne and Heather are psyched for summer camp. The legends of man-eating snakes and disappearing campers are hysterical. Sure, it's strange that the caps have lotion makes their skin peel, but there's a good explanation, right? Things get even worse when Bourne joins the other 11 very special and very terrified guests at Horrorland. There's something very wrong about the bumper car ride called the Whipper. This one is in the Horrorland series, and it's quite a strange story, like when you just all of a sudden hear the snakes and they stop. What could be going on? Could something be wrong with the cap? I think with another one in the series that I'll be getting to later, this is my favourite one in the Horrorland series, although I haven't read all of them yet. Just watch out for slithering snakes, would ya? Especially if you go to a summer camp. Number 6, The Girl Who Cried Monster. Lucy's always telling stories and scaring her little brother Randy with her monster tales. What a laugh. But now Lucy's seen a real monster. It's the librarian, Mr. Mortman. Lucy actually seen him turn into a monster, and it's not funny. He is horrible, but when Lucy tries telling her parents about it, they don't believe her. Big surprise. Can Lucy convince them she's telling the truth this time before it's too late? This is another great story in the series, and from what I heard, R.L. Stein had the idea that Mr. Mortman should eat children, but some people he was working with decided that would be too scary for younger kids. So instead he decided that Mr. Mortman should eat turtles. There's an interesting twist at the end that I bet a lot of you didn't see coming. This book does give me quite a library feel and it's quite a good story. As usual, I do prefer the episode, but this book is pretty interesting as well. Just make sure you watch out for whoever you think might be a monster, especially if you catch them eating turtles or crickets, and if you want to take a picture of them, make sure you have the flash of your camera or phone first. And make sure if your parents invite someone you think might be a monster over to dinner, don't worry, they might be up to stuff and that could save your life. Number 5, A Night in Terror Tower. Sue and her brother Eddie are visiting London when they run into a little problem. They can't find their tour group. Still, there's no reason to panic because there's nowhere their tour guide would just leave them, all alone in a gloomy old prison tower. There's no way they'll get locked inside after dark with those eerie sounds and a strange dark figure who wants them dead. It's quite an interesting and quite mysterious-like book with quite a mysterious and interesting twist to it. It's one of those ones where you would start to question your heritages and who people are exactly, because whoever knows. But yeah, this is quite an interesting, very good book. Just make sure you don't get locked in a creepy tower in the middle of London overnight. Number 4, Why I'm Afraid of Bees. Gary Luke needs a vacation from himself. Bullies are constantly beating him up. His only friend is his computer. Even his little sister doesn't like him. But now Gary's dream is about to come true. He's going to exchange bodies with another kid for a whole week. Gary can't wait to get a new body until something horrible happens, and Gary finds out his new body isn't exactly human. This is my favourite one in the Goosebumps box tin set. It's a very good read and my favourite bit is about the whole exchanging bodies thing. I also like the cover and it's similar to another Goosebumps book called Chicken Chicken. I would say I normally like the episode better, but sadly this book doesn't have an episode, so I can't say that this time. But yeah, this is another interesting read. Just make sure you're aware who or what you exchange bodies with. And quick mention, the rest of the books I'm reviewing don't have episode adaptations, so I can't say they're better. Number 3, The Beasts from the East. Ginger Road and her identical twin brothers Nat and Pat are lost in the woods. No problem, after all, Ginger did go to that silly nature camp. Still, there's something odd about this part of the woods. The grass is yellow, the bushes are purple and the trees are like skyscrapers. Then Ginger and her brothers meet the beasts. They're big blue furry creatures and they want to play a game. The winners get to live, the losers get eaten. Like I mentioned earlier with Legend of the Lost Legend, when it comes to mysterious fantasy stories, I prefer this one. It's a really good book and it keeps you reading till the very end. Just make sure you don't play that kind of game with stuff that's not human. Also stay off the Brown Free Lodge Square and don't touch your penalty rock. And like Why I'm Afraid of Bees, this is my favourite one in the tin set. Number 2, The Troll Screams of Christmas. Kate Wills just was the lead role in her school Christmas play. Her annoying friend Courtney is constantly getting in the way of that, but Kate has to get along with her or else neither of them will be allowed to take part in the production of The Troll Screams of Christmas. Even worse, Kate and Courtney teacher decides that they need to find a special place to rehearse, a certain house with a lot of history, a kind of place that Kate would normally be pretty frightened to go into, the kind of place that gives new meaning to the term Christmas spirit. This is a really good Goosebumps Christmas story and it's quite close to beating number 1. I haven't read many Christmas stories, but this is definitely the best Christmas story in and out of the Goosebumps universe. I just love how it's a creepy Christmas story full of ghosts and how only one main character can see them. From what I remember, this is the only most watched Goosebumps book I read, and like I mentioned earlier, it would be very close to beating number 1. Just make sure to never make a family of ghosts mad. And make sure if you rescue a ghost that she doesn't decide to live with you. Number 1, Little Shop of Hamsters. Sam desperately wants a pet. Too bad his parents don't think he's responsible enough and will barely let him keep the weird instant grow animal from the Horrorland gift shop. To prove he's responsible, Sam takes an after-school job in a pet store that sells nothing but hamsters. To his horror, Sam soon finds that cute little hamsters can become very uncute monsters. Luckily, Sam isn't fighting for a pet, he's fighting to survive. Could the Horrorland souvenir have anything to do with this? Like I mentioned earlier, if it wasn't for number 1, Troll Screams of Christmas would have won, but this is the best Goosebumps story I ever read, and I liked how it begins with 2 kids in Horrorland and them talking about which rides to go on. And when they order food at a strange restaurant, it's more than they bargained for. If you're at Horrorland, never order the shrimp. But yeah, there's a lot of things I like about this book, that's why it's number 1. It's just a really good story. And like I mentioned earlier, if you went to Horrorland, don't order the strip and don't go work in this strange pet store full of evil hamsters and a strange weird man. Especially if he has something to do with the hamsters going berserk like that. If you got a pet hamster after reading this book, you may want to watch out.